Hello, Odoo experiencers. Today we're going to talk about a more technical subject about accounting, localizations, import, export, XML, QWeb, PY, something that I don't even understand. So it's not me who's going to present this. It's going to be the mastermind about this subject in Odoo. His name is Joss and his trigram is JCO, but I'm not giving up his email address. It's with you, Joss.
Thank you. More and more governments in the world decided that when you send an invoice to your customers, they want to be aware of it as well. Can be anti-fraud, can be to simplify the administration, but finally for us as Odoo, it means that if we want to sell accounting in those countries, we need to implement the functionality that sends those invoices to the web services of those governments. And so in practice, it means that we did, for example, the Colombian localization, the Mexican one, and each time separate because, yeah, they are a little bit different. So we think as developers, yeah, it's not so bad that we do a bit the same, but yeah, it's different. So let's put it in those different modules. But if you look at it afterwards and you say, but and you look from a distance and you say, yeah, no, it's not ideal. Maybe we can improve this. And then you see that by having it common between the modules, that you can actually win a lot of time. So that's why we made the account EDI module.
Sorry, Joss. Uh, where I come from, we call it Edi. Is it okay if we call account Edi as well?
Yeah, you can call it EDI as well, or only in English it's people mostly talk about EDI. But yeah, I know sometimes EDI is fine as well. Actually, in this talk, we were in the title we were talking about EDI framework or EDI framework, but yeah, in Odoo, even a complicated framework becomes a simple module. So we just created account EDI. And what I want to show you is that with account EDI, it's simple to develop your own EDI format. It's also simple to use. I will give a short demo just to make also the link between the developments and the usability. And it's also good to evolve together to think about how we can improve this module in the future. We have quite some ideas about that as well. So let's dive into the development. We have the object model. We have the account EDI format. If you create your new format, you need to specify an XML record with your name and code of your format in the XML itself. So it creates a new format. We also have the account EDI document, which is an attachment, but it also has some state info. Has it been sent to the government correctly, and so on. So and the document also has a format. So actually what happens is that you configure on the account journal which are the EDI formats you want, and when you validate an invoice, a customer invoice, what happens is that it will check which are the formats to be supported, and it will create an EDI document for each of those. So that's the object model. It's good to check which are also the use cases we support. So we have just you get a file from your vendor. You go to the vendor bills list. You have an upload button. You put a file there. It creates a vendor bill. First case. Second case, you send your customer invoice to your customer, and there you put the files that you need. There you have the XML formats automatically attached. It's just an export sent by mail. Of course, if you interact with governments and even other use cases, we need to send it to a web service, and that becomes a bit more complicated. We haven't implemented anything yet into account EDI for receiving through the web services. So if we are going to develop with account EDI, well, just go to the easiest thing to do is just to go to account EDI format.p. And the developer there already gave the right indications. It put a comment like import methods to override. It's also put a comment import methods not to touch. And so you just need to override those methods. So here it's about when upload something in the wizard, it calls this create invoice from XML if it's an XML file. You also have PDF and other formats, and you just need to inherit it. You need to say, is the account EDI format I'm on, is it my format? And then you can execute your code, and all you need to return is the right invoice. You will see that if you look at the other localizations that we mostly use LXML to find the right elements in the XML, like the partner, for example. And we use often the with form emulator, so that if you put a partner in there, that it also applies the own changes, so you have the right accounts, the right fiscal position, and so on, already automatically the same way you would create it in the interface manually. We also have the manual export, and in the manual export, you just also inherit those methods. What we mostly do is use a QApp render. So in most of these cases, you get a QApp template, you send all the information of the invoice with the render, and you get an XML. And that's the XML that's then attached to the email, or it can also be embedded into a PDF. But if we are going to talk about web services, it gets a little bit more complicated. And so let's go to the board.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's the salary of a doctor against the salary of a governor, right?
I think it's the document that is being sent to the government. And yeah, what we actually want to do is that the document has actually when you validate the document, we don't want to send it immediately, because we don't want to block the user in validation. If this one is down, yeah, we don't want to block the user. So what we do is we just do some primary validations, like does it have a VAT number or not, and yeah, and then in a synchronous cron, it's being sent to the government. And then, yeah, the thing is, all kinds of things can happen. And so mostly what people do is they start with a we are to send, but then they get an error, and then you say, yeah, it's sent with error. And then they add another state afterwards. It's sent, but it's sent correctly. And then maybe it's cancelled. And then afterwards, it's cancelled with errors. And then but the errors, you say, I want to cancel the cancellation of the errors, so it's cancelled. And then it goes, then maybe you can boot it back into send, and then maybe you can go there again. You look, it's like, it can become endlessly complex, certainly if you have 2 steps or 1 steps. And so for everyone, you will see that in a lot of modules, it's done like this. You have a state, and you have plenty of different states. There are modules in Odoo. There are certainly modules in the OK as well that do that. And so what we said, this is bullshit. And we want to make it a lot simpler. What we want to have is just 1 state to send. And what we want to know is, okay, is it sent or not, and is it approved by the government? Because that is common among all localization. Is it okay by the government or not? Are we done sending it? And then we have what also possible in a lot of cases is that you can cancel it, and you can say, okay, it is to cancel, but suppose that the to cancel is cancelled, you can go back to send, and it's cancelled. And there's only one thing that we have extra, and that's a message, an error message that can go in between. So if you have an error, you are in to send, and you have an error message that can be blocking, but can also be, come back later, because we saw that the server was down or something, or there was a problem with the connection. So that way, we handle a lot of use cases with the same, we handle a lot of use cases with the same basic, simple structure, and we found what's common between them. And that's helping us a lot, and that's why I encourage you to use that as well. So just to say again, you have so asynchronous, we do a validation, and it's also possible in the module to send your things in batch. I'm going to give a short demo to show you the link between what we are talking about and how it's going into practice. So here we have our accounting. We go to the customer invoices. I will just duplicate because I really want to keep it short. And I save, I confirm. And what I see is that I have this blue banner. And that's actually what we do. That message that I was talking about is actually put here. So if it's an error, it will be put in red, but you have all the information about the sending here. What's happening in V15 is actually that it's also everything is happening behind the scenes. So so you can click process now, but actually everything, the cron is taking it really immediately. So actually, it's possible that if I refresh, that that it has already been sent, like you can see. And what you can see as well, if I send and print, is that I have another format that's being used, and that's put into the PDF, and that's which is called FactorX. And what I can do is that I can go back to my other company and try to import it there. So I go to accounting, I go to my company, I take accounting, I want to go to the vendor bills, and here I have the upload, the manual upload. So I take the vendor bill the customer invoice I just exported, and I imported it in my other company. The advantage here is also that, yeah, if you go to the customer invoices, that just wait a bit in the screen until I have a filter where I can group by the different states, and if there are invoices that stay into send, I can follow it up. And that's also the advantage of having something in common. I just still want to talk to you a little bit about how do we see the future. And one of the things we did is the tax details. So actually a lot of localizations and EDI formats, I think in UBL it's almost standard, demand you that if you have multiple taxes on an invoice, well, no, if you have taxes on an invoice, that you have per line. So you have, for example, one line with 2 taxes, that you have the amounts per tax individually. And in Odoo, we don't store that individual information. So what we have is some kind of method that allows to retrieve that information in a really easy way, also efficient way, and that will help you. That will help you for other formats as well to put it in an efficient way. Then another thing is the account EDI to EDI. So here we used EDI for invoices. You might have seen that it's also used for payments for Mexico. But the truth is that in reality, governments also more and more want to send the delivery orders, guía de despacho, carta de porte. It's always called a bit differently. Documento di trasporti, all kinds of. So these are also need to be sent. And so we have this issue already. So what are we going to do? Make a module stock EDI? No, we are going to make a module EDI, which makes it possible to mix all of those, to put any object and send it to where you want. And yeah, that's this has some nice opportunities as well. And then we have UBL. We see that UBL is we have already quite some implementations, and we see that there is common ground between them, but there are quite some dialects, and we also see that we have BIS 3.0 for PEPL, which will where it's even more standardized. So the difference between the countries is not that big actually. And here it's really interesting to try to reuse code, both for import, where we don't necessarily, where we would like to try to reuse code more, because right now every format does its own code, but for a partner there is, for example, to find a partner, there's some things that are in common. And also for exports, we are even thinking about not doing it in QWeb, but adding something that makes it also possible to do validations on the fly. So yeah, so these are actually quite some interesting evolutions that we can do. And so I want to conclude by again telling what I said in the beginning, simply that if you are going to develop your own format, please think about account Edi, and it's simple to develop, and it's also make it simple to use, and it makes it good to evolve together, to think about what we can improve in the future, because I'm sure that from the community there are also a lot of ideas about how we can improve this. So so I would like to say, don't forget to ask any questions in the questions and answer session, and thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for watching the latest talk from the Odoo experience. We're here to answer some of your questions now. So we're going to start from the beginning. So good evening.
Good evening.
Ready to answer some questions?
Hope so.
Okay. So what do you think about creating a link between promotion lines and the main product line invoice? Reason being because in some countries negative value in the invoice is not valid.
Well, yeah, I think it can be. Well, it's an interesting use case in any ways. In any case, that in some countries apparently you cannot send negative lines. So somehow you need to find a solution for that, because people give discounts in all kinds of ways. Now, making a link between a free product and a main product, and then yeah, who is going to set it? It's going to be set by the user or automatically. I don't see immediately the good solution for that, but yeah, we can think about an automatically computed solution where we repetition the negative line over other lines. So yeah, it happens.
So what are the differences between this EDI and the previous EDI module?
Well, what we are doing now is trying to convert everything with the account EDI module that I have been talking about. We still need to change it for Argentina and Chile. We are working also with heavily on Ecuador with our partner over there.
Mm-hmm.
That will be also implemented with account EDI.
Mm-hmm.
we have Mexico and Peru already, and we are doing Spain, and Spain has been done has been merged recently. Italy we have been working very hard on making Italy work correctly. So
It will come, Italians, don't worry. So, how to send an EDI doc again, like he was doing in previous version?
how to send an EDI document again? What does he mean by that? I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know what the question means. Is it going back to before? I don't think it's a good idea. Of course, you can still do things the way you did before. We just encourage people to use account EDI because, for what I said, the usability is better and so on. Yeah, and if you want to send it a second time, but no, what we have is that you send an EDI document to the, that's in fact the reasoning behind it. You send the document to the state, once to the government. Once the government receives your document, it has been received and approved. Of course, yeah. And then you shouldn't change it anymore. You shouldn't reset it to draft and do changes. Of course, we see that there are countries where you can easily send it again, but most of the countries will say, no, we have already received it. And if you want to change it, you need either to cancel or to do a refund. So that's why we kind of stick to that logic with the account EDI.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much.
Is there an Odoo documentation? Sorry.
Is there another documentation for account EDI?
Actually not. What we do, however, is that for every country we will, what I see happening, at least for the LATAM countries, but also for Italy, and we need to do it for Spain, is do a good documentation online about the localization itself. It's true that I could make a bit more documentation online about OCR-EDI, but as I said in the presentation, I think the easiest way is to just check the file, which already has a lot of which already has the right indications, I think, in the code. But this is definitely something we can think about.
Okay. And can you give us like an update on the current EDI proxy module?
Yeah, the EDI proxy module is actually something else. Maybe you saw it in the code or somehow, I don't know, but the account EDI proxy is something, it's another module next to the account that depends on the account EDI and actually is used for when we want to use a proxy server, when you have an intermediate that we have at Odoo. And we have some security stuff and so on in there to make sure we can decrypt the messages and that we have a good security behind it. But it's basically, for example, we might use it for PEPL as well, where you send images, where you send documents between servers. And yeah, we as Odoo function as an operator for that. So we'll set up the server ourselves, but it means that that server cannot be on every. You cannot put that that server individually on every Odoo instance. You have to have one centralized, and that will dispatch to the different Odoo instances. That's what that model is for.
Thank you so much. Well, I think we have to look here for some more questions. Well, you you have here some challenge from Hungary.
Yeah.
You say the government.
Yeah, of course, the government cannot, does not, it's possible that the government does not accept it.
Yeah.
And then it will return an error, and then you will see the error, and then you have to reset to draft, fix your error, and then send it again. Yeah, yeah. Until the government says it's okay.
And how long does it take, more or less, this in a case like this? How much time does it take you, like this process?
To as a user.
Yes.
It depends how difficult the government is. but it goes back and but normally they react immediately if it's an error that's obvious. But if it can be that the government has a two-step process where it takes 10 minutes before 10 hours, for example, before it reacts and says, sorry, there's still something wrong with your
Okay.
So that can happen.
We have here another question. So you mentioned Peppel. When can we have it on Odoo?
Oh, I wished we had it already, but yeah, it's implementing Peppel is really difficult.
Yeah.
Because we really want to be access point ourselves. But we are getting there, but it will take some time. It will we will have some months at least before, and I don't dare to promise anything. But we want to have it. I mean, we want to have it. It would be really nice because it's not only just for government administration; it's also to simplify your administration. And that's the good thing about a more generic format and framework like Peppel.
Okay, there you have it, everybody. Once again, thank you for watching this presentation. Thank you for participating on this Odoo experience. It was a pleasure to have you all. Thank you so much for your participation as well, Just.
You too.
Well, good evening. Wish you all the best. And where is the festa?
Daar is dat feestje.